Another episode of Halo Love and Country. And we've been talking about the risk of LGBTQ people, the risk to LGBTQ people and straight people going to the military. We've talked about other risks also, the risk of um, what have we been talking about? We talked about the risk of speaking out, the risk of being open about your views. And we've been open about some views the last couple of sessions. And today we have a topic we want to be open about, which is the issue of child sexual abuse. And so often, gay folks, LGBTQ folks are accused of somehow being the perpetrators of child sexual abuse, and some of them are, but there's the vast majority of sexual abuse cases are from heterosexual people. And this is all kind of coming to a head right now because of the Epstein crisis that is going on in the administration. There's just, this is one of the few things that the current administration has been involved in that is seeming to stick, and it may not stick. It may not stay as an issue, but we thought we'd cover it today in Halo Love and Country. For once, it's not gay people involved, but somehow LGBTQ people, there's some blame going on here. But this is mostly about Trump possibly likely covering up something that's going on in the Epstein case. But there's a wonderful article, I want to refer you to it. It's in the New York Times. It's called The Conservative Crusade That's About So Much More Than Epstein. And this is from Julia Lin Yang. And we all know that Epstein has been convicted of sexual abuse. He was in jail. He died in jail. He appears to have hanged himself. And this is being brought up, and Trump's saying this is a hoax. And this is upsetting the MAGA base very, very much. Why is this so important? Okay, the Supreme Court is ruling one more time after another about eroding someone's rights, building the power of the presidency. Why aren't we focused on that? He's intimidating judges, he's intimidating networks. Apparently he's not intimidating South Park. I'm amazed with them. They're showing a lot of power and strength in all of this, and willingness to take the risk of speaking out. And but for some reason, the nation is captured by this sexual abuse thing. And we want to talk about it today. And in this article, very, very cool what she's saying. She's saying that the country periodically goes through panics about child sexual abuse, that we become very, very frightened for our children. Women particularly, they're supposed to be protecting children from everything, and I don't know why that is, but that's something we seem to put a lot of responsibility on women to do everything, and they can't do it. They can't. This is what Julia is saying in her article. Modern women cannot protect their children from microplastics in the environment, from pollution, from shooting in the school, but it all gets focused on child sexual abuse, which is not any greater than it ever used to be. In fact, 100 years ago, it was the liberals that pointed out that this was happening. Before that, children were just targets for abuse, for labor, for neglect, for all kinds of things. But for some reason, we have panicked about that as a country. And I'm going on and on here, Mitch. Just jump in anytime you want. I'm sort of setting this up here. So, see, I really saw it when I was a practicing psychologist. I was working with children and families, and suddenly this lovely little preschool in Manhattan Beach, California, the McMartin preschool, was suddenly full of pedophile teachers, and 200 children had been abused, and all the mental health people were going in there and they were finding this out. And one child after another confessed that this had happened to them, blah, blah, blah. And what about all that? It turned out to be a hoax, that none of it was true, that it became such hysteria, and Americans were so frightened and worried about it that the these therapists that were supposed to be helping the children kind of planted the idea that they should be having this problem. And this is not to cover up at all real sexual abuse that does go on, and that truly is an issue. But it's probably not any greater issue than school shootings, and it's not getting worse, as far as we know by the statistics. And people are more aware of it, and we are doing more about it. So, what about all this hysteria? And what happens when we have hysteria in our country? We look for the negligent party. And who are the negligent parties? Who are the folks that tend to get blamed? It tends to be gay and lesbian folks. It tends to be black folks. It tends to be poor folks. You know? So, what are you thinking about all this? Mitch?
All right, so I'm going to start with Jeffrey Epstein did not commit suicide. Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. Uh, exactly how it was done, exactly who did it, don't know. We may never know. But he didn't just spontaneously hang himself while on suicide watch, while on lockdown, with time missing from the video. Um, what exactly happened to him, and the answers are out there. We just don't have them. Uh, as far as hysteria issues, yeah, you're right. There is uh, the the statistics show that the LGBTQ community has about the same percentage of child sex predators as the populace at large. Since the LGBTQ community only makes up about 10% of the population, that leaves about 10% of them committing crimes against children. And out of the 50-some thousand convictions per year for that particular crime, at least about 5,000 of them are the LGBT community. Not the majority.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not uh, it's happening, the people that we need to be looking to as the primary offenders are white males um, across every financial order. White males, um, followed by males in general. Um, the idea that the grooming happens. We do know that is a factor. Um, um, but that's in terms of trying to say that grooming is coming from the LGBT community. Um, it's actually been shown that the LGBTQ population is more likely to be abused as children than to be the abuser, because you're talking about
Oh,
kids.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Okay,
Yeah.
they are extra insecure. They have all kinds of issues. They're already trying to hide things.
Hmm.
They find an adult who is amenable to their questions, to spending time with them, to give them attention, to give them affection. Goes somewhere. They are much easier targets. And actually, I don't know the number, but I'm looking at a website for the Connecticut Alliance Against Sexual Violence. It says that that LGBTQ adolescents are 4 times as likely to abuse as their straight peers have. And that LGBTQ plus adults are 2 to 3 times more likely to experience sexual violence than straight adults. And again, I think that falls down to because there are a lot of gay people who are either in the closet or simply people see them as a target because they assume other people don't like them any more than this individual likes them and is using them as a target. I don't like you, so I can hurt you. That's another issue that is being pushed under this current administration. People that they don't like are easily taken as targets because they're trying to create a system where we don't defend those people from protections under the law, or it's being suggested that officers don't need to really pay attention to crimes.
Well, yeah, being in the closet is dangerous because you're more vulnerable. If you're a child, you have no support. If you're a young child, you have no support. You already feel isolated. Your parents, you can't maybe don't really trust your parents. If you're an adolescent and you came out, now you're a target. If you didn't come out, you have that same thing. You're isolated. So more likely you are going to be abused by somebody. Huh. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, and that goes across the spectrum. I mean, the number of religious leaders, authority figures in general within our political system, within our families, who use that power to abuse everyone below, and not just necessarily the LGBTQ, but women and children and anybody that they are left in control of is, again, it's mostly men and it's off the charts. And then unfortunately, we also have the issue of because men control systems, which is part of that whole TBI concept. Men control the systems, so men create systems that serve men, and white people control the systems, so they create systems that serve white people. And because we didn't have the majority listed, you have a majority system that protects its own rather than upholding the law in a meaningful way when it comes to those minority groups. Not that we don't have laws, not that we don't enforce them, it's that we allow a lot of backsliding when people we don't like are the ones with their head on the chopping block.
Well, and we've all heard of course, the ongoing drama in the Catholic Church, one diocese after another. So there must be thousands of priests that are using I don't know how many there are around the world that have used their authority and their position of male authority or religious authority to abuse boys, probably a lot of girls too. We don't know how much. I think it's more. That's a good question. Why is it more with boys? Is it just more visible? Is it, and is it truly? I mean, we have the Boy Scouts, which have these tremendous reports of abuse now. And
Without having a statistic right in front of me, I would actually say that is their target of opportunity. A scoutmaster is going to be working with boys. As that opportunity, it's going to be with little boys, because pedophiles are male. It's going to be harder for them to spend time around small female children, younger girls. It's going to be easier for them to get access to males. Since sexual assault is really more about power than sex, it makes sense that those have access to it. So yeah,
I'm having a little trouble with volume again.
Sorry, that's probably just me being quiet. Yeah, I think the bigger issue is that we have since being a sexual predator is about power, not about sex. We have men in positions of power over boys, less so men in positions of power over little girls.
That makes
So
sense.
boys are their target of opportunity, and that's what they run with. They are using their power to abuse these boys, and they would probably be just as happy to do it to girls because they're pedophiles, because that's but they don't have access to it.
They don't have the opportunity. And,
And
and so
yeah,
it's, and so, well, the biggest danger though, which is the most difficult to deal with, I think, is the person in your family that might,
right, right.
that you're more likely actually to be abused by someone in your own family or who's well known to you, which could be a scoutmaster or could be a priest or, yeah, or a teacher, somebody like that could be. And these are the people we have to trust to take care of children.
Right,
But what
right.
we're
And
focused on right now is this nationwide drama of Epstein and Trump. And these were not people close to these kids. They were recruited. They were the woman that's in jail. What's her name? I don't know her name. Can't remember her name.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Max. She, what did she go? She went to malls and schools and offered money and and it worked. And she got apparently a bunch of underage kids to come in and be with Epstein and we don't know his clients. How, I guess then that's where that's where we're focused. That seems to be the big issue right now. The big focus, the big upset.
Yeah, but and again, that falls into the same category of conversation. You have a woman searching out young girls for work in a field that is very deeply populated by women, and then you have men at the top who are then manipulating. Technically, Ghislaine becomes the groomer at that point, and then Epstein would step in and start handing these girls off. Their first complaint. There was a conversation. I do not remember exactly which young woman this was. And she was explaining that her first time. Okay, she stated that she had, when she was 14 or 15 years old, she had physical contact with Donald Trump of a masturbatory nature, that it was a very large party, that it was in fact an orgy, that he requested her presence. Her specific testimony was that he demanded that she wear a glove, and and throughout this process, Elaine was the one there going, yes, you're going to do it. Yes, you're going to do it the way she wants you to. Not going to touch you without a glove. That wants a glove. It's a glove.
You're fading again.
It was Ghislaine explaining that to the girl that she would do what Mr. Trump wanted. She would satisfy him. He was someone that we need to make happy, and that so that the girl's contact with him was demanded and enforced. Now, let's go ahead and say that there's no way to assume that if the girl's story is completely true, there's no way to assume that Donald Trump knew she was 14 or 15 years old. That's not even part of her testimony, that he knew how old she was. Her only testimony was that she masturbated Donald Trump.
This is bombshell information. Where is your source for that?
That's the girl's actual testimony, and if you'll give me a moment, I'll look up her name.
And do we want to put her name out if she was
If
a,
it's, I mean, if it's on the, if it's
yeah,
part of
maybe
the
you could say where the testimony was from and what a source would be for one of our viewers to go check it out. Because I've heard that suggested, but I've never heard anything so direct as what you just said. That would, I mean, we saw, we have somebody reporting that there were some naked, younger appearing women or girls sitting on his lap topless or something like that. We do have that. But I didn't know if we had any actual testimony about him. That would be a huge revelation.
Well, it would be a revelation in the context that the entire Epstein investigation is still behind a wall. We're not being openly given access to this information
No.
because this particular young lady was. Okay, now that part I'm not remembering correctly. I'm trying to remember if this lady was also testifying in terms of Prince Andrew as well as Donald Trump.
Yeah, we want to be accurate because that's a major way to smear people. We have to make sure we have we have evidence and data, and because that's what's a big part of American politics is to come up with sexual scandal about people with half of it being true, the other half not being true. So we can get this.
All right, so this is she is in the testimony with the pseudonym of Jane.
Okay, like Jane Doe, probably. Huh?
Well, yeah, but just Jane. They're not saying Jane Doe. They're just saying listed as
Okay.
Jane. She was recruited by Maxwell and Epstein in '94 when she was 14. And sorry, hold on. I'm going back to just get the source section on this. Exactly which section of testimony this would be found in. Second witness by the prosecution. Okay, and this would have been in 2021. Identified in court under the pseudonym Jane. Also testified that she flew on Epstein's private jet several times, along with Prince Andrew, celebrity chef Adam Perry Lang, and Epstein's mother and brother. All right, so I'm going to continue digging for a clearer,
Okay.
a clearer.
And maybe we can edit here and, when edit this part until we get some documentation. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's on the live stream. All we can say is that I am currently looking for the backup documentation on that. But one way or the other, we're still digging. We're still
that's
looking
true
at
on live stream. Yeah.
So we're still looking at the greater issue.
It certainly is a tantalizing possibility.
That's not my choice of words on that one. Again, because the file is there, we know that Trump is in it. His own staff has alternately said, no, not his own staff, the DOJ, who's not his staff, who are not supposed to be under his purview at all. But apparently that's just gentleman's agreement, not the law, has acknowledged that he was in the files before they then decided to say there are no files, there are no lists, there's nothing to record with here.
My understanding is there was 1,000 FBI and Department of Justice people that combed through the files, finding his name wherever they found it, and that he was briefed on this by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi.
There was
So is this testimony readily available to the public?
I don't know how available it is.
Well, it's available to you. How are you finding it?
And I saw it in an interview, but that interview was weeks, months ago. It wasn't something I looked at specifically for this show. So the information is there, but I don't know exactly where I access it. So I'm trying to access it again.
Okay. Because I think that's what hopefully we're all doing, is reading, trying to remember what it is that we've read, trying to document sources, try to find out the truth. And that's getting harder to do. It's more difficult to do in the current environment. But it's not impossible. And if people keep speaking the truth, that helps a lot. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're taking the risk today of trying to speak the truth as we know it, which doesn't mean it's always going to be right. We're not. We don't pretend to always have it all perfectly right.
Well, no, and you're absolutely right. It is important to know where the information is coming from, because unfortunately, again, the information is right in front of us. They're simply not allowing us to see it, so it's difficult to verify a great many things. But let's go around this, and I'll just continue looking for that data. But going back to part of what you were saying earlier, yes, I believe the stats, and that may have changed in the last 5 years, but the statistics to this point have held that 90% of children are abused by someone that they know, someone in and among their family, but generally people that they trust, and it's not a stranger walking up and snatching a child and abusing. And I think the number was like a third or a quarter of that is an older child.
Yeah, and I think that's this New York Times Yang's article on. It's really talking about the hysteria is that the child's going to be snatched.
Right.
That they're going to be taken off the street. That they're going to be. But it's overall, and this is what I I dealt with as being a parent, and I dealt with some of my patients that were mothers and fathers, is they just felt this inordinate responsibility to protect their children, and which led to not wanting the children out of their sight, not ever getting a babysitter, not being able to go away to camp, because they felt responsible. And the bottom line is, you can't protect your children. You can do reasonable protective things. You can take them to the doctor. You can screen people that you leave them with. And you will sometimes fail at that. And that is the hard truth of parenting. And it's not something any of us want to face as parents. We don't want to fail. We don't want to send our children to camp and have them be washed away in a flood. A Christian camp, a beautiful, amazing experience probably for those girls. And horror comes up. It's part of this world,
Right. Right.
And it's easy to say, but there's nothing easy about facing it at all. And the temptation might be to, well, then I won't even try. I'll just ignore, distrust everything and hope it all goes well. Well, that ain't going to work. That doesn't help either. It does helpful to be vigilant, to be aware. But ultimately, you're going to have to trust your neighbor. And to me, that's one of the. Go ahead.
Well, no, and I guess you don't have to trust your neighbor. Your neighbor is. You vet everyone who comes into your circle. Make sure that the people around you are as trustworthy as you can expect them to be. And there will be missed signals. There will be shortcomings. It can't be perfect. You believe that the summer camp is safe, and outside horrible accidents or just people in authority mistreating our children. Though it's part of the nature of being children. It's this one time at summer camp stuff. Things happen. They're not always what we expect our children to be doing when they are out of our sight and in another person's care. Side note, it's the woman she used the pseudonym Katie Johnson and also Jane Doe, referring to orgies and sex parties that happened in the vicinity of 1994. The case itself was filed in 2016, but it was dismissed for failing to meet legal requirements. So the accusation is there, but it did not go to trial.
And that included against Donald Trump.
And that one was specifically against those statements were against Epstein, Maxwell, and Trump. Although I guess the charges in that case were pointed towards Epstein and Trump, but within the story, she spoke of Maxwell telling her what to do.
What to do with Trump?
Well, things like the fact that he wanted her to use a rubber glove.
Right.
And she
okay, so we have an allegation. It's like when we were doing. I had a group home corporation for a while, and we were mandated reporters.
Yes.
And as you are in your work, I think, aren't you?
Yes.
And so if you become aware of a suspicion of child abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, violence, whatever, you're required to report. And so we would see that they were. And sometimes we would get complaints against our staff for violence. We had one complaint about sexual abuse. We had 30 people involved. There were employees, and so those complaints were categorized as what would they call it? You used the word, Mitch. Allegations unsubstantiated, allegations substantiated, and versus like convictions. So there was levels within the social services system, but I don't know how that works legally. You can make an allegation. Sounds like this young person made an allegation against Trump, but for some reason it didn't meet the legal requirement, which is really a difficult thing to deal with. So what do a young person who takes the risk of making that allegation, it gives them a certain prima facie, you can't presume truthfulness, but yet there is some kind of presumption of truthfulness. And I don't know how else to say that. Because why would they? Well, we did found there were other reasons sometimes for people to make those allegations. Sometimes they didn't like that staff member, or they wanted to see. It's power to make that allegation. But a young person like the pseudonym Katie Johnson, going so far as going to an attorney or to the police or to the whoever in front of the court, that's a huge risk on her part. And to tell a lie and maintain that. But there is no way to know other than some corroboration. There is simply no way to know. And then our system presumes innocent. So with Katie Johnson, you have to presume innocence regarding Trump.
Well, and that's
Don't
not,
you?
and that's not, one way or the other. There are so many other allegations that were carried forward and found to be credible, and for whatever reason, didn't, the people backed off and didn't go all the way. And he has one accuser who has won 2, if not 3 cases against him. He owes her millions of dollars. Although he was not found criminally liable, he was found civilly liable for lying about her, and for the contact itself, which again was
Yes.
not proven criminally, but it was proven civilly. But we're
So he has a corroborating history of
Okay.
abuse of women,
yes,
doesn't he?
yes,
Yeah.
he absolutely does, and he has it to himself many times admitted to acts that that I would see as sexual abuse against children, particularly in his running of modeling events. He talks about walking into dressing rooms so that he can see girls, in the process of dressing semi-nude, understanding that that's what he's doing. He's walking, he walks into dressing rooms with underage girls so that he gets to see them naked because ha ha ha, it's but tangential. That's a tangential issue.
Well, it's certainly
but-
sexual harassment, isn't it?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
yes. But I'm going back the other way, dealing with issues of the LGBTQ community on this front, the accusations of grooming, and as you said, we move back through these periods of witch hunts where we need to blame all of society's problems on someone, and we inevitably find someone that's really not the source of the problem, and they're really not even a strong sign of the problem, but the larger group and make it seem like they are somehow liable for things that they are not. I was looking, going sort of back to things we were talking about last week. I was looking at some immigration statistics, and it shows that the majority of one of the main claims of immigrant men trying to get like asylum in the United States is like 20% of them will say that they are facing sexual abuse of some sort, and that is straight men. I think
Oh, I didn't know that.
Fleeing is that they are facing
Straight men.
Yes, straight men. Even though gay men coming from countries where their sexuality is being criminalized make up the majority. Gay men, not. I mean, the lesbian community I think was number 4 on the list. I was looking at the UN High Commissioner for Refugees report. United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees report. But yes, 20% of refugees are men claiming, among whatever else they may claim, that they are facing a sexual issue, even though the majority of people fleeing those abuses are actually gay, and they're not necessarily facing sexual assault issues, but they are definitely facing issues of I'm being persecuted because I am gay. Um,
Yeah.
and so to pull that the rest of the way around, here in the United States, we make them into targets. We are going through this process now where, you know, we're trying to integrate them as human beings and minimize the laws that protect them. You know, one of the things Trump did on day one, got in on January 20th. On January 20th, told the government that there are only two sexes. That's all we are going to recognize on our paper. They removed all mention of transgender people from the federal websites, from documentation, and you know, and he's been fighting to ban them from the military. For what? Why? What functional reason is there beyond just picking?
There
somebody
isn't.
who's
No.
hard?
No. It's scapegoating, isn't it?
Yes.
It's you got to pick your enemies. Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, you have an equally bad situation where you have people like Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas, who is pushing for the reevaluation of laws that literally he's married to a white woman. And the laws he's looking at having reevaluated literally literally fought back the laws that said a black man can't marry a white woman can't marry a black man, or a white man can't marry a black woman. He's looking to see those laws reevaluated. You constantly see, just this past week, Friday, I believe, this past week, the superintendent of schools in Oklahoma was leading a closed door meeting in his office when sexual images start popping up on his computer on the big screen that everybody is watching. There's been 3 people who were in the meeting who have corroborated, 2 people in the meeting who corroborated the event, and 1 person who said those are 2 extremely stable people, and if they said it happened, there's no way it didn't happen. And this is a man who is constantly pushing for, I am a religious leader. I am trying to bring decency back to the country. And not that him having naked women on a computer is somehow a crime. It's inappropriate to have it on your work computer. And it is definitely a problem when you're running around telling other people, well, you're not allowed to masturbate, and you shouldn't be looking at people who aren't your wife, and you shouldn't be, you know, thinking about sex. But apparently it's okay for him to ignore the standards of his own religion, or at least the standards that he applies to his own religion, because Christianity covers a lot of ground and a lot of people.
Doesn't it? It's part of the. It's what Yang talks about in an article too. That our culture is changing. That we've actually given up slavery. That we've actually want equality among races. We actually don't vilify people that are married to gay people. At least this is what we aspire to.
Right.
And this is a direct threat on the folks, the MAGA folks, and they know it. It is a direct threat to them. They've lived for a long time with a particular religion or the particular values of that particular religion, of a particular social structure, a particular racial structure, a particular financial structure, but all that has shifted and changed. And as that has shifted and changed, this is what the article suggests. A panic sets in. A great fear sets in that then gets focused, and then from a psychologist's point of view is then projected. We become afraid because our lives are changing. Suddenly we don't have the same, our jobs, there's a big thing. Our jobs were exported overseas. Suddenly our wages maybe are less, but our standing in the community is different now. We're now equal to these other people. We can't it's now considered negative I mean, we always used to just be able to enjoyably call people fags. It used to be just fine to have people of different races kept on the other part of town. Now they're living next door. The children go to school together. Hell, they marry each other. Clarence, Thomas, they marry each other, don't they? And this is huge change. My son likes to talk about it in terms of this is this is reactionary behavior. MAGA is a reactionary movement that wants to turn back the clock on all these things and wants to go back to when a certain group of people were more comfortable with the way it was. It was, you work for 30 years for the same company, you get a pension. You can buy a house, you can get a car. And these are real issues, a lot of them now. You could buy a car. You could have a family, live in a safe neighborhood. None of that is available now for vast numbers of our countrymen now. And it's a huge change. There's a lot of fear going on about it. And I think that's what's behind the MAGA movement. And I think it's fueling the reaction to somehow to become all worried about Jeffrey Epstein, who's dead, focuses all that, It gives it, and to elect Donald Trump, who can't possibly, who won't, we know his character. He can't possibly help make housing affordable. He would never even try. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about your health care. He doesn't care whether you're persecuted on the streets or you're a scapegoat he doesn't care that LGBTQ people are suiciding when they're teenagers. He doesn't care about any of that. He's going to make America great again. He's the reactionary. He's going to react to all of this stuff. And that's what he does. But now he's kind of caught because the conspiracy theory that this great fear that's all been projected of this cabal of elite people who are pedophiles, what if he's one of them? It's breaking through. The reality is breaking through. What if he's one of those elites? Well, of course he's one of those elites.
Well, and that's the weird part. I don't even think that's what they're saying. For the most part, like their willingness to acknowledge that there is currently a cover-up happening doesn't seem to extend to the idea that Trump's dearest friend for a couple of decades is a lifelong groomer, pedophile, and human trafficker. They don't want to believe that, because like the narratives that jump aside from that and say, oh no, he when he found that out, he disassociated himself from Epstein, or he knew what Epstein was doing, but he stayed involved so that he could gather evidence against him, or it's all stuff like that.
And none of that was true. It was over a business deal.
Well, yeah, but it was what it was, but there's no way to in the same way that I have to dig to go back and find Katie Johnson. Where there's a difference between the truth and the web work of excuses that his followers are willing to swallow.
And why are they though? Why are they willing to swallow it?
Because that's how cults work. Your leadership.
And why are cults so important? Why do humans like cults so much? Okay, I'm just making my point now.
They like
certainty. Well, yeah, they like certainty. Exactly. They don't. Us humans don't like change. If we get a position of power, we want to maintain it. And we usually maintain it through a system of beliefs and those beliefs are not working anymore. The beliefs that maintain the MAGA folks don't work anymore. But Trump is making them work. He continues to say the myths, and people, they love hearing them. Just like if I have a particular religious belief, I like going to church and listening to that belief being expressed. It's a firmly held value. It under, I don't think we have any idea how powerful it is, how important inequality is to some Americans, especially if they're on top. Or it's part of their sense of themselves, and now that's undermined. So in a way, I don't blame them. But why pick someone like Trump, who can't possibly, well, except that he keeps the myth going. He keeps the myth going. I guess I understand it. Yeah, I guess I do. He will tell you whatever you want to hear.
Well,
He's a shoe shine man.
Their only requirement is that the people leading them not like the same people they don't like. The number of the number of self-hating people who are among their leadership, the way they just slowly bleed out is I'm sorry, and not just self-hating, but also I'm sorry, what's the word that I'm looking for here? People who do not live up to the standard that they profess.
Hypocritical?
Hypocritical, thank you. The number of
Not like
hypocritical
that.
people along with self-hating people, the number of gay Republicans who
Amazing,
are pushing
isn't it?
or who push for all of these horrible things to happen to gay people. They're in the closet, so it's not immediately affecting them, but how do they not understand that if they ever get found out, it's going to land on them? They're going, the number of them who've had to, walk away from their position, who've lost their families, and then in the wake of that, they kind of have to look sideways and go, I may continue to try to live like a straight man, but I just wrote a bunch of laws that could get me imprisoned, or I could lose access to my basic human rights, even if I'm not in a prison. I'm in a different kind of prison. The number of religious leaders that sexually abuse their flock, or abuse in any way, really, but sexual abuse.
But how do we account for Clarence Thomas? There was a guy in the New York Times did an article this morning on supporters of Trump that had kind of turned away from the Democrats. And there's a Mexican-American guy, citizen of this country, who's openly gay. And he's openly gay at the New York Times. He's saying this in an article, that he supports Trump. It's like...
And that's the self-hating side of it. They need to be seen as better than those other people. They're some of the good ones. Clarence Thomas needs to be recognized by the white power base as not one of those other black people.
One of those awful black people, yeah.
Yeah, one of those awful black people. He's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those.
He's a good one. He's a good one.
Yeah,
well, Mitch, you're not a good one. I can tell that.
Clearly, never have been. But actually, for the most part, I always have been. Yeah, he speaks so well. Yeah, fuck you. I was raised in the same educational system as everybody around me. I just got that part of it right. I still can't do math to save my life, but I can speak the fucking language. But yeah, you have Hispanic people who are like, don't confuse me. Those border jumpers, I came over here and I did it right. And there's even some who actually were border jumpers. There are a lot of people who came here illegally and then just eventually got right. who are not in favor of the people who came over the wrong way and still
Because
aren't right.
they've learned, they're learning the game. Because part of the game of being an immigrant and becoming a citizen is to learn, apparently in America, is to learn, for some people, it's to learn how to look down on other people. It's, you become the one that looks down, which is a lot better than being looked down upon. It's
Right.
better to be rich than not have enough food to eat. It's better to be white if you can go, if you have more opportunity. It's better to be, I don't know, you can just always look, which, if you got a choice, well, just pick somebody that's the scapegoat. And we know what a scapegoat is, right? Scapegoat is, yeah, it's from old and old times when the village was having trouble, when they were in conflict with each other, when there was threats, people were afraid, they would take a goat and stake it outside the village and probably sacrifice it too. That was the scapegoat, you know. We
Well,
always
and
need
that,
one.
yeah, and people, okay, I was about to say that people always need somebody to blame things on. I guess the difference there, though, is that there's a difference between finding someone who is responsible and holding them responsible is different than finding anyone we can pin blame on, even if it doesn't solve the problem. I mean, you'll hear a lot of people, say, I don't need, now isn't the time to lay blame. Now is the time to find solutions. Okay, that's fine, but don't try to find solutions in a way that ends up concealing who was actually at fault. Because if that
Who's
person is in a
responsible?
position of control and what they did was irresponsible, not just it was a mistake. If you're the guy in charge of the siren that warns everybody in town when the tornado is coming, and you see the tornado coming, when you go into the little shelter, one of the wires frays and snaps, and you just can't put it back together in time to get the alarm to work, and the whole town gets decimated by the tornado. If your maintenance was faulty, that's one thing. If you overslept the alarm, that's one thing. If you saw it coming and ran for your life and didn't hit the alarm at all, that's one thing. But if it was just a confluence of accidents that there was no reason to believe would happen the way they happened, and it just came down that way because that happened in the real world, then that's just a thing that happened. And all we can do is try to make sure that the events don't happen again. We're going to upgrade our maintenance. We're going to make a better quality of equipment. We're going to get a little more automation in the process because, certain parts of this shouldn't have had to have run through other people. He shouldn't have had to have waited for someone to tell him he could hit the alarm button, whatever. But when someone is in the wrong, we need to know that they were in the wrong, and we need to know they won't be given the opportunity potentially to make that mistake again. Some mistakes are small enough, like, okay, it went wrong.
They made a mistake.
Yeah, we hope.
Here's the consequences for making a mistake. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's not overlook it. It's like, yeah, so, yeah. It's like I understand, it makes sense to me, the reactionaries in the MAGA movement. It makes some sense. People lost their jobs to go overseas, some of them. Some of them did not want to accept equality with other races. Some people didn't want to have to accept LGBTQ people getting married. Whatever, I understand. They are upset. I understand that. And it makes some sense that they would pick someone that would, undo all that. Just fix it all, make it all fine for them.
And the
problem,
the person they're picking is the source of the problem, not the person who can fix it. Because even now, he's not fixing it. We made a decision as a country under Clinton that we were going to start moving away from the more manual labor, the more manufacturing-based jobs, and we were going to make an information technology nation.
Yeah.
We overdid it. We overstepped ourselves.
We didn't realize the negative consequences of that, did we? We didn't somehow, account for that. Well, we talked about accounting for that when the factories were moving to China. We talked about trying to help the people who lost their jobs there. But did we really help them? No, we just let these small towns be destroyed. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
but we let them be destroyed in the end. In the end, we let them be destroyed in the name of profit. It wasn't that the plan didn't
Right.
work. The plan ended up turning into a money grab, and the people in our government, the people in control now, the people who are profiting under Trump, were the people that offshored all the jobs, that banked back all the money. You know, I mean, they were unhappy with. I guess that happened under Obama. We did the bank holiday thing where it was like, just if you, or maybe that was at the beginning of Biden, where we basically just said, if you bring the money back, we won't tax you on it. You know, we know that there's $3 or $4 trillion offshore. Bring the money back, and we won't count it against you. Well, that's just free money for them, and now we're reversing it. We're going in the other direction, where we're just making money hand over fist. Not we, but they are making money hand over fist in the same exchange process. They're hiding money. They're using their influence to make more money and take away the infrastructure that allows the rest of us to live. We are about to walk into a situation where we're going to lose our health care, we're going to lose our jobs, we're going to lose security of benefits at our jobs, we're going to lose our homes, we're going to lose access to food, and they just and the people at the top clearly
they don't get it. They don't have to be responsible, do they?
Well, they can pretend to not be responsible, but eventually, and that's the really worst part of it, is that when the people at the bottom have had enough, it will not really matter who was responsible. They're going to rise up from wherever they're at. They're going to look around. They're going to see who's most comfortable, and they're going to blame them. They're going to start with them, and then they're going to start ripping stuff down. And those people are going to those rich, well-off, happy people who, you know, may just be benefiting from their parents' good fortune, who never necessarily involved themselves in the situation. My dad.
And that would be me. Yeah.
You know, everybody's going to end up paying a price. But yeah, right now we're at it's the fault of immigrants. It's the fault of the LGBTQ community. It's the fault of women who refuse to know their place. It's everybody's fault, but the fault of the people actually doing the damage.
Well, our time is up. Great conversation, Mitch. Thank you.
Yeah, once
Thank
again,
you.
we solved all the world's problems.
Loved your research about LGBTQ people. We'll be back again. We'll see you then. You've been listening to, watching Halo Love and Country. Halo is about taking risks. We're taking the risk to speak out. Catch the movie Love and Country. It's on Tubi and Amazon. Catch the novel from Northampton Press, Love and Country, about two men who take the risk to join the military and finally serve openly to some extent. Anyway, we love you guys. Thanks for listening.